being young is the biggest threat to them. They are senior and they know more than me. And I know that. I'm not even trying to teach them. I'm just telling
Hmm.
my perspective on my numbers, but sometimes they take it wrongly, right? Junior people in organization as in like not serious enough. Like, okay, he won't know
Hmm.
enough or they won't know enough. They can't come up with something which is valuable enough. Like maybe they have that those kind of feelings or something.
Welcome to the first 2 years. I'm Akshaya Chandrasekaran. Since we started this podcast, I've been thinking a lot about my first job. I was curious, excited, but I knew nothing about reporting for a newspaper. Each day I had to talk to people who were far more qualified than me, inside the newsroom and outside. Most of my colleagues and editors had been reporting on something for so many decades that they were complete subject matter experts. They had great networks, the best ideas, and in my eyes, they were just cruising. While I was really struggling getting my ideas heard and being taken seriously. How do I go up to my editor and persuade them that this is a great story idea worth pursuing? Even if they think it is, why would they trust me, a junior reporter, to execute it? By complete luck, even if they let me do it, how do I get the right people to talk to me for a story when I don't have a body of work to show for? I was full of questions. Being new and not so qualified made it all feel so high stakes and consequential and almost impossible. So, when we got a question along these lines in the TFTY feedback form, I knew I had to meet this person who sent it. So, meet Pranav. He works as an analyst at a fintech firm headquartered in Abu Dhabi. You know what? I'll let him tell you more about what prompted him to write in.
To give you a little bit background, so our firm has been acquired by a PE firm. Before they came in, we were like a upstart who had to chase the leader. So it was growth at any cost, and the whole setup also was made in a such a way only to get as much business as fast as possible. Now, after the PE firm comes in, now the goals are different. Their KPIs are like we want to earn more money and we want better all P&L basically, right? We want better profitability, everything. So they have hired our team, the whole group, for bringing this change inside the organization.
Can you imagine how difficult it is to join a team that will lead a change initiative in your first job? I'm sure you've tried negotiating with them, right? And you've tried persuading them to kind of, concede, reach a middle ground and all of that. What are the obstacles you're facing in that?
We are brought in by a PE firm who's looking at everything. So they know we
Got
are
it.
going to bring that change. So they have little bit insecurity also, as in like, okay, these people are bringing this change.
Oh, like
Always
these
in,
people have sort of been dropped in from a B school suddenly into this
yeah,
company and they are
uh,
gonna like observe us
yeah,
and like so there are
yeah.
like perceptions about your team
Uh-huh.
overall.
Yeah.
Huh,
So that's
gotcha.
the one
Yeah.
thing. And second thing, obviously, is ego because they are senior and they know more than me. And I know that. I'm not even trying to teach them. I'm just telling
Hmm.
my perspective on my numbers. But sometimes they take it wrongly, right? Like they are not able to get past
Yeah.
that. Yeah. So sometimes with some people specifically, it happens that ego comes
Yeah.
in the way. Yeah.
This has put Pranav in a quandary, and that's what inspired him to write in. His success entirely depends on negotiating with people far more senior than him and who are simply not ready to listen to him. So, on today's show, how to build trust with difficult colleagues in a new workplace at a new job. Also, for regular listeners, I'm trying out something new here. You've already heard from Pranav, and now I'll introduce Pranav to an expert. A little bit of a pen, pineapple, apple pen situation. So, tell me how you like this episode. We are back. Now I get to introduce you to today's expert, Dr. Nashater Deu Solheim. She's a psychologist who's a pro at making connections. In her career, she's worked with certified psychopaths in maximum security settings. And she distilled those lessons she learned while doing that to help anyone who's looking to build trust with mistrusting people and work together on common goals and connect in a more meaningful way with colleagues you may not necessarily like. This is like a very unique experience, right? Like, I'm going to ask you all about working with difficult people and all of that in just a bit. But just out of curiosity, prison inmates, I'm guessing, are not the easiest people to talk to. So, like, the thing that I'm asking you is when you enter a room with someone like that, right? How do you break ice? Like, what's the first question you ask them?
So I will say one of the biggest realizations I had was that, it's perhaps something that's hard to hear for some people, and it may not be something that a lot of people feel they can accept. But they are humans. They are regular people with extreme backgrounds and experiences who've done extreme things. So there are a few special things that quite a lot of special things that you would ask as you get further into the conversation. But perhaps one of the more unusual things that we would ask at the beginning that you might not in a regular conversation is, how do you feel about meeting with me today? And that is because you want to establish quite quickly whether there are going to be any very early barriers to them staying in the room with you to have this conversation, or whether they are feeling coerced in some way to have the conversation. Because as much as you want to, I know they are in a physical environment that's controlled and locked, and they don't have a choice but to be there. But they do essentially have a choice to come into the room and speak with me. Within that context, they don't have to speak with me. It's not mandatory. We ask it of them, and if they say they don't want to see you, they don't have to see you.
Before I ask Nashita for help, first I wanted to understand from Pranav what he's doing right now to try and understand the things that are not working.
Initial response is be as humble as possible and reason with them. That's what I've tried to do, and that's my nature also is to do. Okay. So initially I'm a really soft spoken person. No, I should more than I should be. But so what I'll do, I'll reason with them, reason with them, reason with them. And if they still don't, so initially what I was doing was either I'll bend to their will or I'll escalate it to my manager. Okay, so you go to my manager, you show him whatever problem you have, you discuss it with them and do what he says.
So basically, it's like you escalate the issue to someone who has more power and authority.
Yeah, exactly. And if he says it's done, like if still after that they go ahead, then and we are not making money out of it, it's their fault, right? But they can't basically go above and they can't fight with my manager. Like he's in such a post that like they can't fight. So that's
And
what
what's
I
the
done.
issue with
But
that?
it's in such an intense environment. My manager has thousand work. Everyone in the team has thousand work. So actually, it got so bad at a certain point. My manager was not happy with all of us. Like 2 3 days, he made our life hell. Okay, because you just can't come at any time to me with your problem. I understand, but I have my own work, and I'm not able to focus on that because of that, right? And so start he and he's such a good person also. Like he tells us that I want you to take ownership of the situation. Don't be fearful. If something happens, I'm there. You don't fear of making mistake, but basically start taking ownership. If I'm giving you some work, you get given some project or task, do it. Whatever it takes, you do it. You don't create a bottleneck on me. Okay, I'll come and sort out the situation. So now, like, I can't go back. If I now still tell to them, and okay, now still I keep making him the bottleneck for everything, then it reflects back bad on me. Okay, so you are not ready to take the responsibility or leadership, or you don't have that in you to basically to own a task and make it possible.
Pranav feels like this will snowball into a bigger issue. His manager has promised to back him if a conflict arises, but Pranav has also been told by his manager that it's not his burden to bear. Now he's stuck between a difficult team and a manager trying to teach him a lesson. Have you ever wondered why can't people just listen to me? Why does it have to be
Yeah.
so hard?
It does happen, yeah. It does, it's like you are missing the point. Like they are missing the point. Yeah, I think so. Last conversation also trying to tell them if they do what I'm saying, then they're gonna earn more money. Like how they are missing that. I'm not gonna earn more money. You are going to earn more money. Like they are just missing that point in all their ego or insecurities or whatever that is, or their politics. It can be sometimes because of their politics also, but they are missing the main point: more money for you. Yeah, like what else you are here for, right?
Pranav wants to succeed. He wants the team to succeed. His intentions are in the right place, but he's still not able to get people to believe in him or trust him. What is he doing wrong? Why isn't he able to deliver where he is? I asked Nashater the same questions.
Quite often when people are judging us, judgmental of us about, why do you have that position? Why should I listen to you? Why are you here and not somebody else? And, why have they given it to you? You're too junior, too inexperienced, too whatever it is. I think what they're responding to is not feeling understood. They don't feel that you're somehow able to connect with whatever experience they have or whatever challenge they're dealing with. So the first rule of thumb I always say when you're either transitioning into a role, leading a challenging project, or meeting any kind of resistance is find out as much as you can about what matters to the people that you are working with, the ones who are perhaps showing this resistance or this misunderstanding or confusion or whatever it is. What are they dealing with? What are they working with? What are their business priorities? What do you know about this person? And then when you go into work with them, and do this before you even start, this is not just to do when things go wrong, but very early on, before you start with your project or your task, find out who am I working with? What can I find out about these people? And then when you are going in and asking them for help or support or to follow your lead or to complete a task, you can hook your ask or your request onto what's important to them.
I was just telling you about how frustrated this person was sounding, right? When they were talking about this experience at a workplace. And they ended this with, it shouldn't be this hard because what I'm doing, this change initiative, is going to help them. It's exactly what you said, right? Kind of trying to communicate that your intention is to help them.
More than that, actually.
And not to...
It's not... It's of course, they know that you're there to help because you're coming in with, on behalf of the company, bringing change in. It's more important that you communicate the benefit to the person, linking it to their exactly what they're dealing with.
Problems.
So coming in and saying, and I see this happens a lot, I've done it myself, where you come in and you say, but, the company is implementing this new system, for example. We all have to use it. It's going to improve the way we work. But we're all human at the end of the day. And the person that you're meeting probably understands that already. They know that. So that's not going to help them feel even more inclined to be cooperative. So you've got to meet the person at the individual level. It's not enough to keep talking about corporate objectives and business priorities and the company level. That doesn't inspire any of us at the human nature level.
And it also sounds like you're trying to be a savior.
Well,
right?
it's that, and it also sounds a little, it's a
you.
little business speak. It's a little generic. So if, for example, you're going to try and persuade me to do something at Akshaya and you tell me it's for the benefit of, the company I work for, well, great. I get that. But I've got a lot of things to do. So why am I going to support your initiative compared to the other 20 people who come through the door and ask me the same thing on their initiatives? They're all doing it for the company. So what's going to persuade me to give you the extra effort is because you've understood my context. You've understood how it's going to help me, and you've been able to highlight that for me. You've been able to say, look, Nashater, I know you're working with this, and this is how it'll make your life, your day easier.
Making it personal?
Make it personal to and not personal in your personal life sense.
In any other
but
context.
Personal in you've understood that person's role and responsibilities and task. That's when you get influence having an impact.
That's interesting. I wouldn't have thought about it in that. I was like, why couldn't they just communicate it to them that they are trying to just help them and this is going to help them overall and all of that, right? But this also requires, I think you touched upon this, sort of building a rapport even before you have a conflict, or even before they've already started, they're already growing suspicious of your intent and all of that. This requires that information gathering phase where you're trying to learn more about them and all of that, right? So it probably starts earlier.
Much earlier than when you're
go
going
into
in.
the implementation phase.
And what I talk about is, and this is all in the book, but what I talk about is we try to move, when you're having, or you want to have positive influence and impact in an environment where you have a mandate. You could walk up to somebody and say, well, I'm the leader, or I'm the project leader, and I have the task and I have the mandate. Just do it. Why can't you just do it? Because I have to get it done and you have to do it. But that's what I call an entitled mindset. If you come with the idea that because I have the mandate, because I have the title, because I have the rank, because I have the position, if I use that as my way of trying to persuade and influence you to do something, I'm going to come across as arrogant, I'm going to come across as entitled, like I can't be bothered with who you are and what you are. I'm just going to come in and tell you that I've been told to do this and you need to do it. And imagine if that was your leader doing that with you. So turn the tables and think, what if my leader came in and said, hey, I'm your boss. I don't explain why this is really relevant. You know that it's relevant. You work in the company. Just do it. Just do it. I don't need to explain it to you. How would that feel?
Yeah.
You wouldn't feel seen, you wouldn't feel valued, you wouldn't feel like your individual contribution was important. Whereas the same leader coming in and saying, hey, we're doing this project, as you know, for the company. It's going to have a lot of impact on the way we work. But you know what, Akshaya, I think it's going to really help you and your team, and then outlining that. I think this is a great opportunity for you to be able to, and then outlining that. So when you start to speak at the human level to the individual level, whether they are the CEO, whether they are a senior executive, a peer in your team, or somebody who's junior in your team, make it personal is where you get the greatest influence, where you get the greatest cooperation. And most importantly, it's the first building block of trust. Because now you see me as a person, as somebody who has their own experiences, their own needs. That's how I'm going to start building trust with you.
So I think I like to advise about make it personal and talk to them on a human level, and not a lot with those business speak, and not talk about corporate objectives and all of that, right? Say I try to do that. The reason I'm asking you this question is when I was talking to this person, I asked them, what did you do to change the situation and how did it not work? So that I can relay it to you and ask you whether, like, this person, they were like, okay, well, I repeatedly escalated it to my manager, and my manager had to intervene each time. I had to get them to cooperate. At one point, he is also swamped with work and pressed for time. So he told me, you know what, at some point you have to figure this out. You can't keep coming to me. I think you will have to develop conviction in your ideas. And when you're facing pushback, you need to be able to say, hey, I believe in this idea, and your conviction has to be demonstrated to this thing. And he was like, to be honest, I don't have that conviction myself because I'm also new. I'm figuring it out, but I can't perform confidence, right? I need to feel confident.
There are a couple of things I'd say. I mean, if you've been to escalating it to your leader does a couple of things. Of course, if you're feeling that you're getting a lot of resistance and people are being, really difficult, rude even. I had a case where I had to escalate it to my leader, and I was a leader myself at the time, because it was becoming quite an intimidating environment, the pushback, and I was not able to get traction. So I had to escalate it to my manager. But until I'd got to that point, one of the things that we had done quite well on that particular project was talked about, that this is difficult for all of us. So I was quite vulnerable in that and said, I haven't done this before. This is a really, I'm new to this environment. I'm new to this task. I could really do with your expertise and advice on how to navigate this. So asking these same people who say no for their advice and support and help, because they probably are more senior and they probably have more experience. And so, laying out what your task is and saying, okay, I'm here to present this for you. These are the requirements. I'm relatively new to this. I know you've been around for a long time. I'd really be grateful for advice and support on how you think I could navigate getting this implemented or getting this to go through. Who can I speak to? If it's not you, are there other people I can speak to? Or, is this about timing? So just trying to open them up into a dialogue where they start to share how they can help you rather than how they can get you out of the room as quickly as possible. So don't be afraid to be open about that this is a challenge for you and difficult for you. And don't be afraid to ask for help from those same people. Yeah. That's one strategy. I'm not saying that will work in every situation, but that can definitely work because it also means that you are recognizing their competence and experience, which they will, of course, that will matter to them. But they're also then perhaps empathizing more with your situation that, look, this is somebody who needs our help. We were there once. We know what this is like, and they may feel more inclined to help and support.
It goes from like, I'm here to help you to I need help myself. Can we do this together?
There you go. Together is the key.
So we're coming to the end of our conversation, right? And before we wrap up, any other myths like that you would like to bust?
You know what? I always say to people, you cannot like everybody and everybody cannot like you. So using all these skills does not mean that you will become liked by everyone and that everyone is going to be likable. So be conscious that sometimes we have to work with people who are difficult and we're just not going to like and we don't get on with. But we can still be professional and cooperative and get the work done using some of these skills, which is really around how can I understand the other person, whether I like them or not. It's more important about how can I understand where their needs are, and we can get into a communication where we can actually still work together in a meaningful way.
That's great. Yeah. You can maintain a working relationship and not,
you don't have to be best friends.
Butt heads on a day-to-day basis. You don't have to be best friends. You just have to be working professionals.
Great if that happens,
but
it's not a goal in itself.
Yeah. Yes, but thank you so much. I think we're running out of time. I could go on and on and on, but thank you so much for taking the time out and answering all my questions patiently, no matter how stupid or dumb they sounded. And I really am excited for more people to listen to you, discover the book and all of that, right? So I hope you enjoyed the conversation as well.
I love talking to you. Please don't ever say, at least to me or anybody else, that any of the questions that you ask are stupid or whatever they are. As I've said to you before, and I know a lot of people say to you, I love curiosity. I started this by saying I'm insanely curious. And when you're curious, there is no such thing as being stupid or naive or not. It comes from a place of wanting to learn and wanting to know. And I wish more of us had that in us and were humble enough to go in and ask those questions. So I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. I'm so glad you reached out. I'm glad we made the time. I really hope it was helpful to your listeners. And I've thoroughly enjoyed talking to you. So thank you.
Thank you so much for all the listeners who write in week after week with their questions and concerns and share their stories so candidly. We love hearing from you, so keep sending your career questions. All the information you need about reaching out is in the show notes. If you liked what you heard, follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. This episode was written, hosted and produced by me, Akshaya Chandrasekaran. Our in-house sound engineer is Rajiv Sian. Thank you. See you next Tuesday. Bye.